All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join us for this webinar on getting started with security operations applications. I hope you're all doing well, and thank you for being here and for being a security operations customer. I'm Sarah Wood, and I work in the outbound product management team within security operations at ServiceNow, and I'm located in the New York, New Jersey area. I'm excited to be joined by Elizabeth Skoquist from our amazing product success team. Do you want to introduce yourself, Elizabeth?
Sure. Elizabeth Skoquist. I have joined ServiceNow 2.5 years ago. Had worked with ServiceNow Elite Partners for the prior 11 years, focusing my last 3 years on security implementations. So I was excited to join the team a couple years ago and support the product from the inside. Happy to be here with you today.
Excellent. Thank you, Elizabeth. So as you heard, we've got some great experts on the call. So we'd love to answer your questions at any time. If you have a question, feel free to pop it in the chat or use the Q&A feature. And we'll also have some dedicated time at the end. Really, we're here to support you where you are at in your implementation journey. So don't, hesitate to ask anything. Now, we're not planning to cover any forward-looking statements, but just in case we do, our standard safe harbor notice applies to this presentation. And it is part of our Live on ServiceNow events program. So we do encourage you to keep an eye out for future events and register on the community. We'll share that a little bit later, how to get to that. But we do have a security operations office hours coming up next week, which we'd love for you to join, and a couple more sessions coming up in September, as well as other product success webinars. So we will share that a little bit later in the chat. Before we get to the agenda, I do want to remind everyone, again, we're here to answer your questions, so feel free to use the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom for that to submit questions. And then this is a recorded webinar, so the recording will be available in the community to take a look at afterwards. And once we do close out the session today, you should receive a quick survey on your screen, and we'd really appreciate it if you could take a minute to complete the survey so we can get your feedback and make sure we improve for future events. More importantly, we do want you to come away from this with a clear idea of what your next steps are towards your security operations implementation. And so part of that will cover a few different areas with a bunch of helpful resources and links that we're going to share in the chat throughout the presentation. And again, it will be available in the community with links as well after the fact, so you can revisit all of that. Now, in this first part, we're going to start with a quick overview of security operations and highlight some of the key resources for you or your team to dive deeper if you would like to. But I will start first with a quick poll. So I'm going to go ahead and launch that. We want to know what you're looking to implement, or perhaps have already started implementing, or are interested in. Feel free to share that with us in the poll. If you've got other things that are top of mind, go ahead and share it in the chat. We're super interested. This also kind of helps us, maybe when we're talking about certain things, understand the audience and what you're most interested in. So it looks like, most people interested in both. I'm going to keep it open for about 10 more seconds because we've got a couple of responses still coming in, but it's looking like, most are interested in both. Some maybe a little bit unsure, which is totally fine too. And then if you're interested in something specific, feel free to drop it in the chat. As I said, I'm going to go ahead and end that poll and share that out. And we'll proceed. So as many of you, will already know about the portfolio, the SecOps portfolio includes a suite of products that fit into sort of two broad areas. So we have the ability to respond to vulnerabilities across cyber attack surfaces, which is largely achieved through our vulnerability management solutions, which include vulnerability response, as well as application and container VR, and configuration and compliance. And more recently, we have security posture control, which is our asset security posture management application. And so on the other side, we have the ability to respond to incidents across the enterprise and enterprise security. And so this is largely achieved through our case management solution for enterprise security, which is called Security Incident Response. And within that, we also have threat intelligence, we have data loss prevention incident response, major security incident response, and most recently, we have our latest offering, the Threat Intelligence Security Center. And so moving
Second,
on.
and just interject on that Threat Intelligence Security Center. We did a recent webinar on that. It could be confusing that we have a threat intel for incidents plugin as well as this Threat Intelligence Security Center. And to differentiate between those two, the threat intel is giving you additional insight on that threat awareness for managing your security incidents. The Threat Intelligence Security Center is for that threat hunter team. So it's a different activity than the SOC security incident activity. So there is a different user base of those two components. So want to highlight that because that can be confusing because they use the same words.
Yes, thank you for that. That's so great. So our threat intelligence module is part of security incident response. The new offering is a separate application altogether, and as Elizabeth described in great detail. So I think another thing to add in is our Now Assist for Security Operations, which is our even more recent than Threat Intelligence Security Center. This is our generative AI offering for security operations, and it's starting in the area of security incident response. So things like security incident summarization and closure notes generation. So you can kind of look forward to more information on that in the community in the coming days and weeks. So I'll just move along into security incident response briefly. This is a high-level look at the workflow and security incident response, and this is where we really sort of unlock automation and workflows that enable you to respond to incidents faster by integrating your various security and SIM tools that you have into ServiceNow as a central system of action and engagement where you can view and prioritize your alerts. You have your native connection to your CMDB within ServiceNow, allowing you to really understand that business context and better prioritize your security incidents. You have the ability to integrate with threat intel tools to enrich those incidents, to better organize and orchestrate your response actions and direct those responses right from within SIR, followed by post-incident workflows like completing configurable reports. So a bit of a high-level view there, just as an overview. And similarly, on the attack surface management side, we have our vulnerability response application, and that's really giving you that visibility and prioritization and automation of the vulnerability side across the enterprise. So in this scenario, you'd be integrating your scanners, setting up your vulnerability calculators and assignment rules. And Elizabeth has some fantastic webinars that are out there on demand on all this type of configuration. And essentially, you'd be able to have automatic risk scoring and grouping of your vulnerabilities, as well as assignment to the right teams across security and IT. We also have solution recommendations and patch orchestration integrations, as well as different workflows for reassignments and requesting exceptions and deferrals, which can also connect with our integrated risk management solution. And then lastly, on the right-hand side, you have rescans that can confirm whether your vulnerabilities have been remediated and close them out. So let's move on. So we feel, understanding the suite of offerings and just security operations in general is an important early step in implementation so that you have the ability to determine what outcomes and functionality you want to prioritize. And so we've kind of highlighted several resources throughout this presentation here, these ones being the ones that we think are great for you getting up to speed and remaining informed about SecOps applications. So just diving in here, we have our product docs, which we're probably quite familiar with. These are now updated for Xanadu for those of you who have accounts and are logged in. But this is where you're going to find the latest product information on SecOps and across the platform, as well as release notes for new releases and other helpful content like setup guides and instructions about entitlements. And thanks for putting that stuff in the chat. That's awesome. So you can access that there. And so, like I said, when you're logged in, you can now see some Xanadu notes, which are coming in September. Next, we have a community YouTube channel. So this is a great resource. We've got a specific channel for SecOps, and we drop new demo videos regularly here. So it's a great way to learn about new product features, especially if you want to see videos as opposed to reading content. So we'll drop that link in the chat as well. Now Learning is a huge, important resource. When you buy SecOps products, you do get learning credits that can be used towards virtual on-demand or instructor-led courses so that you or your team can obtain certifications and become really informed on implementation of our products. So we regularly update these courses for different releases. There's a SecOps Fundamentals course, there's a SIR and VR implementer course, and associated learning paths as well. So there is a community post where I've curated all of the different links to specific courses for security operations customers. So we'll share that as well. And I would encourage you to take a look.
I'm going to highlight some new classes that were just released on the integrations into vulnerability response and getting those configured. So if you're in your journey where you're looking at understanding that setup more, those are on-demand classes for you to access and review. So just want to highlight there is everything and even little, snippet learning bites. It's not all necessarily a 3-day curriculum to go through. So yeah, I encourage you to explore that. There is a lot out there.
Mm-hmm. That's a great point. I'll make sure that those get added too to the post.
Yes.
And then lastly here, or not second last, I guess, is our security operations community. So this is your central go-to hub for SecOps users around the world. You can share resources and best practices, and possibly more importantly, you can post questions and get solutions from ServiceNow experts across the community. And I will call out that we've recently upgraded the user interface, so it's cleaner, it's easier to find content, and I'm going to possibly just throw that up on the screen for a moment just so that you can get a sense of where some of the top resources are. Bear with me for one moment here while I bring that up. So when you're in the community and you select security operations from the product hub listing, you'll come to our landing page here. So different look and feel now, super easy to create your account. And once you're in here and you have created your account, I'll just call out, first of all, that you can subscribe to forum posts, articles, blogs, events. I would highly encourage you to do so, especially events, articles, blogs, because you'll get the latest information from product success, product management. We often post articles and blogs about new features. Events like this one, you'll also be able to see here. And we do have our events tab as well. And some of those on-demand events that I was talking about earlier are really easily linked for you to take a look at, as well as for those of you, just getting started and wanting some great resources. We have our welcome guides and our product checklists here. And then our forum down below, of course, where you can post questions to the community. So super important resource that I just wanted to make sure we showed.
And content like this that's where we will be sharing that, correct?
Absolutely, yes.
This webinar,
we will be sharing
recording.
it here. Yeah, exactly, in the events post for today. All right, moving right along to our developer site. So this is really our developer ecosystem here, and this is a great resource for your more technical team members who want an actual, sandbox to play around in, to install applications, and do some config work. It's open to all levels of individuals, however, and it does include detailed technical documentation where you can also sign up for the free developer program too, and you can collaborate with other developers. And as you can see, there's a nice little guide as to how you can get a new personal developer instance. So definitely take a look at that, especially if you're on the more technical side and you don't have access to that yet.
One thing I would encourage about leveraging your personal development instance for as you're exploring things and not certain, what a configuration might do, I would encourage testing it on the PDI, because as you work on your sandbox or development instance for getting things set up and your update set builds, if you get to the end of it and it didn't do what you thought it would do, it's not always as easy to take everything back out. So having that test drive over on an instance where, okay, it didn't work, I won't be doing that on my dev instance for, promotion into QA and prod. It just makes it easier to confirm that your design and an intended build is in fact going to do what you believe it's going to do. Just a little insight, because the back out, if you've done a lot, it is as time consuming as the build. So keep that in mind as you're building your update sets to get your configurations up the stack.
Thanks for that. Great technical pearl. Love it. All right, moving right along. We're going to get into more of the how. How should you go about your implementation? And Elizabeth is going to take it away after we launch this next poll, which is launched. There we are. So we're looking at, where are you in your implementation journey currently? Implementing now or this quarter, planning to implement this year, maybe no plans yet to implement. Perhaps after the webinar, you'll get started. And others. So yeah, definitely let us know in the chat if you fall into a different category and you'd like to share with us. We'd love to hear where you're at. And I'll also add that we're very happy to follow up with any individuals after the fact. So if you have specific questions you don't think are answered in this webinar, or maybe more specific to your situation, you can always leave that in the survey at the end, or in the chat, and we'll follow up with you. All right, I'll leave it open for a few more seconds here. Okay. So close that out and I'll hand it over to Elizabeth.
Great. Okay, so getting started in your implementation journey, I want you to be aware of all the options that you have available. Bringing in an expert with our expert services team can be quite beneficial as you go down your security implementation journey. You may find that an implementation partner can also bring in that expertise, having done it before, to guide you in your understanding of where should we start, where should we go next. Self-implementation certainly is possible. We try to provide you as many tools as we can to help you be successful, but I don't want to minimize at all having an implementation partner or our expert services in as a team member to work alongside of you. Can definitely expedite and have less rework in your plans to go forward. So all options available there. As we move forward in considering, we're going to come back and close on how you can understand who those players are for us.
Sorry.
I was wondering if we weren't going to show them implementation partners. That's closing. Next slide. So when you're getting started with security operations, understandably, there are a number of areas where you're going to start getting the data coming in, leveraging the platform core setup as you're looking at roles and groups getting set up for whatever scope you're starting with: vulnerability response, application, configuration compliance, security incident. Again, recognizing that each of those are scoped and they'll each have their own roles for who can come in and work with the data. As you get that application stood up and data brought in and all those foundational things set up, you can then move forward with understanding where your reporting will be. Are you leveraging performance analytics? Are you going to be advancing into other applications and data coming into this solution? So there's a lot that you can do in that foundation area that can take 3, 6, 9 months before you even move forward into what this diagram is showing as a crawl. This is really a maturity as you start turning on performance analytics, integrating patch orchestration, having major security incident management come into your process. Threat intelligence being a plugin for supporting security incident might not necessarily be as much as a leap into maturity as, you know, turning on cloud configuration or cloud security for configuration compliance, which I would consider is a whole nother implementation. The benefit in working with the VR suite is to recognize that there is parity intended in the design. So as you get familiar with what you're doing with your implementation for VR, it's going to be near identical for app VR or configuration compliance or for container vulnerabilities. So you have that kind of accelerated path on the next implementation for that suite. For security incident, different than vulnerability response, you have different capabilities that you're bringing here, a lot of automation that you can plug in with playbooks. So there's different experience and knowledge that you're going to be bringing to setting that up, but still a place to start, beneficial out of the gate, no doubt, with the automation that will come in with any of these plugins getting started and set up in your environment. Next slide. So this is giving you an understanding of maturity of vulnerability response as a program as a whole. Not necessarily, this is an industry slide, not necessarily ServiceNow specific, but what you're looking at doing as you're getting started is moving out of that maturity level 0 where everything is manual, having the spreadsheets that you're exporting out of your scanner being emailed over to your remediation owners or to those players that are plugging in on a security incident. You're losing the visibility across the team of what's happening when you go in that type of a disjointed process. So what we're looking to do as you leverage ServiceNow technology is move towards at least that maturity 1 where you have some automation coming in as you're bringing that data into your vulnerability response application. You're having set up a risk calculator to allow you to prioritize and give you a way to filter and determine where are we starting. You're grouping like vulnerabilities and assigning them out as they're being loaded in. So all that activity that is in the manual process is, you know, someone looking this up and putting them in the email then is happening as the data loads. So you're automatically that much farther down the path in focusing on how are we getting this done? And the vulnerability management team having that big picture because everything's in one system to see how are these being progressed towards remediation? How are they being handled? That single system of record giving you that visibility of the enterprise instead of tracking that spreadsheet and however you would be managing that manually, just cumbersome. So quick jumpstart out of the gate in getting your data brought in here and getting that configuration set up. So as you advance into maturity 2, you may have an additional level of understanding of your assignment that you can tune in on. You may find that there are different integrations you bring up to have even more complete picture of the infrastructure. Vulnerability lifecycle management and having that entire process of a change request coming from this application, an exception request coming from this application, and having that awareness of that exception going out to your compliance team. And so those additional automations that are built within the tool coming into your normal process. You may find that your programming getting started wants to be that advanced out of the gate, and it's possible to have those remediators start with the use of that change link capability and that exception being integrated into the compliance team if you're an IRM user. Again, the CMDB augmented by scan data. So the ability to have that cooperation with the CMDB team, with the insight that vulnerability response gives you from recognizing we could not find the CI that the scanner found that had a vulnerability, and that cooperation and working with the CMDB team alongside of you, giving them that insight that this isn't found, discovery may need to be tuned, or however you're getting these assets into the CMDB, this part of the infrastructure is being missed that the scanner's finding. So giving them that insight and lead on where they can advance the CMDB. Then you go into enterprise risk trending, where you have all your scanners integrated, whether it's cloud scans or application scans, configuration scans, all of those coming into a like automation environment. So then you have the capability to have a complete picture of the attack surface available and available, I guess that's the appropriate word, if it's exposed, and having that oversight at a broader level, full enterprise picture with any component and opportunity for vulnerability being brought together for visualization. So big picture, something to work for, people are there, know it's possible. So yeah, we're here to help you with as much as we've been able to provide out of box, and the ease of getting that set up for you to advance in your maturity quickly. So in security incident, it's a similar cycle where you're starting out manual when you're at a maturity stage of 0. Again, adding that automation as you go to a maturity 1. You now have an integration from your SIMs that have incident creation happening without you having to go in and key it in. So there again, you get a step ahead in your activities because that data is coming to you ready for action. Again, the ability to have that prioritization calculation coming in as that record's being created. So a lot of the same as you mature here, single system of record, improves visibility. So then as you move into a maturity of 2, you have more enrichment data coming in. You have that threat intelligence plugin turned on. You maybe have the SysAkev plugin turned on. So all of that additional supporting information to give you insight on that particular incident and actions that you might want to take around that at your fingertips to help guide you in that accelerated response and better decision making. Then as you go into maturity 3, having orchestrated remediation, where you have playbooks set up for you to have a guided stepping tasking for the agents that are working on these particular incidents that are coming to light. Automated response, again, integration with additional tools that are providing insight to your awareness of activity. And enhanced analyst efficiency. Again, having that automation and that information at that fingertips. So moving forward into a more advanced process becomes easier. And again, ideally, Giving you solutions like security incident response gives you that framework to have that acceleration of maturity come to you sooner. So, sounds great. Let's get our maturity story in play, which brings us to where to start. So we do provide story themes to give you guidance and understanding of what are we going to have to focus on as we get started. So when you go out to some of the resources that we'll be sharing at the end, we are giving you the detailed steps of, okay, core setups. I mean, this is obvious. You're installing vulnerability response, any supporting applications that you want, whether it's patch orchestration or I guess SysAccount's coming into this one, where you want to be starting, having that understanding of the user personas, going then forward to that integration setup. What we're doing is wanting to make sure that you recognize all the steps that are going to make you successful and not having that be a guessing game and giving you that template to work from so that you can be successful. Obviously, we want you to be successful. So the insights that we can guide you into your success makes everyone happy at the end. So know that these are out there. Whether I'm looking at this to see change management could be maturity. Again, out of the box, it's a push button. It's kind of a no-brainer if you want to add that to your phase one. It's more of a probably appetite for how much your remediation owner team can take on. Remediation owner, those people that are doing the remediation. Exception configuration, again, it's set up out of the box. Once you plug in your approver names to the approval groups, the workflows are already there ready for you to use. It's a matter of if their appetite allows them to have that go into place, definitely beneficial for you to have recognized which of these remediations are not able to be met by a target date. Notifications. For vulnerability response, there is, I would say, a give and take on notifications. Understandably, you're not able to send a notification out when anybody gets an assignment group gets a vulnerability. You're having that come in nightly. Their email, it's going to be noise. It's not going to be actionable. There'll be too many. So the way that you notify with vulnerability response needs to be very mindful, thinking of that volume of data that comes into this particular application. It should be more of a training of the remediation owner to know that they should come into their workspace every day and have that be their norm for seeing what work is there for me today, not looking for that email to be their trigger to go look at their workspace. That should be going to that workspace to see their work should be the way that they get their notification. So it should become their habit more so than you proactively giving them an email that says you have work. I guarantee they have work. I haven't found a customer or a client that has no vulnerabilities and no teams have action to take. So it's a known. If you're a CI owner, chances are pretty good that you have a vulnerability that you need to look at to remediate. Report configurations, again, the ease of that being out of the gate, giving you a ton of out of the box, most common reports that customers are using. That for getting a PA report set up, we have scheduled jobs that are ready to be activated to collect your data. So again, giving you a lot to start from. It's a matter of where you want to start, how much you want phase one to be, what's your timeline, to say where are we starting and when are we going to do in the first 3 months versus the next 3 months, and rolling out and maturing over time. Options for you to consider. And dashboard configuration. This is almost one that is changing as we get more workspace heavy, knowing that our future is in workspace. We have dashboards that are retiring because of the capabilities that are coming into workspace for home pages to be able to represent the data that's giving you the insight to know where your action needs to be. So this side could almost, it's getting close to being revamped and having that dashboard probably change to more of a workspace setup. So like vulnerability response, security incident response has these same themes. But one of the benefits of being in the platform and knowing the platform is the continuity of how everything works. You know, installing the applications, regardless of the application, it's going to be the same. You're out on the store getting it. The user persona, the roles, getting those assigned to groups, all of that is consistent as you go from one application to the next. So as you become expert, it's, you know, the same, and one of the benefits of the platform, right? So access restrictions. So security incident has a uniqueness from vulnerability response, mainly because of the sensitivity of the data. The access restrictions for security incident response actually allows you to even minimize platform administrators from getting into this solution and getting into this data. Normally, platform administrators have access to everything on the platform, and they can get in and do anything that they need to do. Security incident is the one plugin that is the exception. So you need to decide as an organization, where is your control as in access? Understandably, you know, least access is the general rule. Does that include the platform administrators when it comes around to security incidents? So that's a unique decision for this particular application. Again, the integration setups, likewise, bringing your data in, you know, automating that creation of incident, whether or not there are CMDB updates. Again, the cooperation with your CMDB team for these solutions, because of the value that that CMDB and the attributes that are maintained on that CMDB being right, play back out in your calculations for risk and determining priority of work. So, you know, is it external facing? Is it a server that hosts a crown jewel application? So all of that CMDB particulars really play into the benefit of what these solutions can bring to you. I don't want to say it's the end all, because you can have that automation of data coming into these solutions and have that understanding of what's out there and getting that single pane of glass. You can still do risk calculations without those particulars if those aren't in your CMDB yet, with other things in relation to, you know, the incident itself. Recognizing the hardware still is going to be valuable for security incident. VR, you have other attributes that can weigh into that risk calculation, but I don't want to overinflate that you can't do anything without the CMDB. You can do more with the CMDB, and as the maturity of the CMDB comes, you can do even more. But it's not a showstopper if your CMDB isn't pristine. None of them are. Don't have that be the reason why you don't start. There is so much value in the automation that these tools are bringing you. That should not be the reason why we got to wait. So going through the story themes, you can read it as good as I can. They're intended to go in order of understanding of, you know, where are we going to start, how much is going to be phase one, on through to your dashboards or setup of workspace. Again, these are available out there in Now Create, which we'll be sharing with you later. So here's our slide. This is the one I was thinking might be coming after I talked about the expert services or partners being a part of your journey. We do have resources available to go out and find a partner that has certified security implementers. And I do want to emphasize that we have a wonderful partner community. We couldn't be who we are without them out there assisting us in helping customers get their applications up and running and matured, tuned, whatever it may be. They are invaluable. But I do want to emphasize that these security solutions have uniquenesses. And so as you're looking for a partner, looking for those that have the certifications in the tools that you want to be implementing. So we do have that capability as we look at Partner Finder. So again, want to be emphasizing that you do want to look for those specialists. they will bring that experience that will expedite. Expert services, again, available for you to have an outreach, working with your account team. They certainly can plug you into our resources that can get an understanding of what you're looking for, whether your guidance is just an advisory working alongside the team. That could be enough for you. Or are there additional hands on keyboard? Do we just not have enough for what we want to do? We can bring those resources in as well. So you decide how much you want to have them play in a role of your implementation plan. There are package services that you can look at to have that be your possibility of your scope of work, and additional resources. Yeah, like I said, extra feet on the street when you're doing your project. You decide how much or how little they can help you. And I'll create. So we talked about the story themes. There are literally starter stories out there in a spreadsheet for you to work from. The quick start guide that gives you a step-by-step on step one, activate the plugin, trying to make it as easy for you as we can to be successful in your journey. We are sharing these with you, your process guides. Maybe it's a process workshop that you're going to run to understand what your requirements are. We provide a deck for you to guide that Q&A of what do we need to understand and flesh out in our requirements so we can get moving forward with our configuration to hit our mark on what we want from these tools out of the gate or in our maturity. So I don't want to minimize how much is out here because it's a lot, and having you be successful. Scoping guides, all of this here, process guides for you to share out with your teams for them to understand not just usage. Some of it is process and the decisioning that you're doing as you're working with the tool and knowing what that process is intended. We give you a starter template for process guide, kind of an out of the box idea. And then you can just customize that as it relates to your organization's uniqueness, business strategy and intended use. So leverage that. It's kind of your own consulting team in getting you started, for sure.
All right. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. We're going to move into our final section. Just a reminder to go ahead and add any questions into the Q&A or chat. We'd love to answer them before we close out, and anything that we don't get to, we'll definitely follow up with you. So we do want to spend a little bit of time on why you should begin implementing security operations if you haven't already, and what kind of value can you expect to see by getting started. So I'm going to open it up by launching our last poll of the session here. And this is just looking at what are your top desired business outcomes. Accelerate response to security incidents. Perhaps you're more focused on critical vulnerabilities, or reducing security incident resolution effort, or reducing your attack surface, or maybe all of them, which is also fine. If there's any other ones, feel free to add them in the chat as well. We'd love to hear from you. And we'll keep it open as we've still got some people responding and some responses coming in. Looks like a little bit of a stronger focus on accelerating response to critical vulnerabilities, with some interest, of course, in security incidents as well. So very interesting for sure. I'll go ahead and wrap up that poll there, and we'll continue forward. And we want to say, good news, because you can really eventually get to all of those things depending on your priorities and how you're phasing your implementation. And our customers have been able to achieve these types of results in pretty quickly. So within 6 months of going live as well. So we can see in many cases, analysts are closing almost 2 times the number of security incidents on average at just 6 months of usage, and cutting mean time to remediate a vulnerability in half in just 6 months. And so even our best in class customers are getting results that are even greater than this. So we want you to know that these are the types of results that we're here to help you achieve. And to add more to that, we do want to say that at ServiceNow, our security team is customer zero, and we ourselves have moved from using, manual, labor-intensive processes to respond to vulnerabilities to using vulnerability response, leading to over, 99% accuracy in assigning vulnerabilities, exceptionally high SLA attainment, and 85% gains in productivity. So really great results for our internal team. And similarly with security incident response, our internal security has gained a lot of value moving from manual processes to being able to prioritize alerts and automate their processes, leading to huge cost savings and thousands of hours saved. So again, we are active users of our product, and we're constantly working with our internal team to implement new functionality and reach even more results. But when it comes to getting to these types of results, Elizabeth talked a lot about the, implementation side, and it's really, a good starting place to set your vision and your outcomes. And these are just some of the examples of the types of outcomes that you can choose to prioritize in your implementation. And many customers will initially select one or two outcomes that relate to their biggest, key challenges, to prioritize those first, and to be able to select the appropriate corresponding metrics to measure their progress. Again, that we shared a number of resources on Now Create, and there's also a post that we'll share in a little bit in the community that can also help you, because it does list out a number of these as well. And so as you explore the value that you can get out of your SecOps applications and create that vision for your organization, we'll take a look at these 3 resources before we close out today. So first, we have the Customer Success Center, which is really your one-stop shop to search across all of your ServiceNow resources, find leading practices, resources, tools, calculators, events, etc. And you can learn more about the Now Value methodology, which is a framework that helps you envision, create, and validate value from your ServiceNow products. On that note, one of the resources that's within the Customer Success Center that can be really useful is the value calculator. It's a really, simple tool, a quick and easy way that you can see the annual business value that you can achieve using ServiceNow, and specifically in our situation, SecOps applications. So you can look at, the value of multiple different solutions at a time, or you can just sort of narrow in on security operations, which we've shown here in the screenshot. So that's a great one to check out, really simple, easy tool, especially if you're, determining what you're kind of creating that value proposition, right, for getting started. Now, what if you do have ServiceNow Impact? So a lot of customers will have ServiceNow Impact as part of their package, and this is really a value acceleration solution that's designed to maximize the value that you get out of your investment with ServiceNow. There are a range of different packages with different offerings, and this slide sort of shows a little bit more detail around the possible offerings that you may have access to. So this is, the total package with the full range, which includes things like having a designated squad, value recommendations, additional technical support, and special, discounts on things like training and expert services. So if you're interested in more about ServiceNow Impact, you can certainly reach out to your account executive or customer success manager. So we just want to wrap things up. Again, feel free to throw any additional questions into the Q&A. This is just a summary slide of some of the key places to go for more resources that we've been sharing throughout. I mentioned we're going to be posting the recording of this session and the links in the community. So I did share that link earlier, but that'll be in the event posting within the community. Before we close out again, I want to invite you all to our in-person customer event in Santa Clara. This is called Connect Security Symposium. It's happening on September 24th to 25th. It's a free in-person event for security operations customers. We'd love to see you there. So please feel free to scan this QR code and find out more information and register online. And we'll also share that. Pete has shared that in the chat, the link to register. Again, would love to see you there. It's almost like a mini knowledge. It's dedicated specifically to the security operations. So you're going to have the opportunity to meet with, product managers, product success from ServiceNow, as well as actual security operations customers who are sharing their real stories of their, lessons learned, successes, and everything else. So please register. And this, again, has been part of our Live on ServiceNow programming. So we'll have additional events throughout the year. And we do have an office hours event next week. So please join us for that, where you can have an open forum to ask any questions that you want and learn what other questions people are asking and share best practices. Now, we do have time for a little bit of Q&A for any additional questions. I did see one come in that got answered already. Let's see if anything else has come in. I know one of the questions we often get is around the CMDB maturity and how mature does it have to be to get started. And Elizabeth already went through that, which was awesome. Another question we sometimes get is sort of how do we know, what sort of integrations are available? So one of the things I can just pull up quickly is the ServiceNow store, which is another really great resource and place to go. We didn't actually specifically call it out today, but popping open store.servicenow.com and then searching for security operations, you'll find all of the different apps and solutions and integrations that are available. You can also search by integration name, and you can see sort of which is developed by ServiceNow or by one of our certified technology partners. And so this is a really great place to get more information about what is available, what is out there. And oftentimes there'll be additional, supporting documentation as well for the different applications.
I'm going to dig into this a little more. You happen to pick Titanium integration. I don't know that this is fleshed out as much. In looking at the menu that's available on the right, why don't you pop back to one that we developed? I know that it will be fleshed out then. Yep. So I want to point out that when you take a look at that version, there's other application versions. And if you click on that, just giving them the insight of how much information is out here, you'll see the release notes and the dates that each of the prior versions had and what they were bringing to the market. So closing out of this, understandably, you could view details that takes you over to docs specifically. When you go down to licensing requirements, what I want to do is go over instead. This is where I used to find it under product details in the center of the form. You can also go over to the dependencies tab, because a lot of people always wonder, what do I need to run this application? And those are additional insights that this store page is bringing to you. So I want to just make you guys aware that it's not just the description of the product itself. The links here are also bringing you a lot of information and understanding about what this product will bring to you. So take a look at those as well as you're out there exploring and looking to understand a particular plugin or application.
Yeah, that's great insight. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, we'll give it another minute and see if any other questions do come in. But I do want to just thank you all for joining us today, and we really appreciate your time. If you do have a moment to complete that survey when we close out today, that would be great. We love getting your feedback and making these sessions as valuable as possible for you. It doesn't look like anything else has come in, so we'll probably go ahead and wrap things up for today's session. And again, thank you so much for joining us. And we'll have this recording up at the link that I shared in the community in the coming days. Thanks, everyone.